Hello, I'm Toycat and welcome back to another third channel Bike and Talk video. Today, I'm riding through a very weird piece of bike infrastructure. In fact, this entire thing is going to be pretty weird, I'd say. We're going to be riding through some cycle lanes, some roundabouts of cycle attachments. There's even a cycle mini roundabout, if I'm not mistaken. It's going to be a fun journey across London. And I feel like infrastructure is always something that fascinates people. I think, I feel like especially men in particular, but, you know, like, everyone is interested by this world we build around us. Down the right there, US Embassy. Big building, isn't it? All around it, giant sky towers that take hundreds of people and billions of pounds to build. But yet, it all happens somehow, right? If it takes that many people, there's a lot of decisions that need to be made. All those decisions are made in all these different cases, and it culminates in this very interesting collective space. So, when it comes to like a private building like the US Embassy, although technically the US Embassy is not a private entity in itself, but in the UK it is. You know, they don't own the government in this country since 1776. That time the UK gained independence from the US, if you don't know. I'm pretty sure. But that's a fact. You can try and fact check me, but that's just how that is. Unlike the you know, these buildings are all made by private people for their own private good. They might be intending to use that private space they make. In fact, you'd hope when their building's this big that it's not for one person to enjoy personally, or even one company really. It's for the enjoyment of others via the service of rent, or via they rent out the ground floor for restaurants, right? But that's someone building something for themselves. And so, when it comes to public infrastructure, i.e., how are you going to connect these buildings to each other? Are you going to have a pathway? You're going to have a road? You're going to have a rail line? A bus line? You know, like all these questions, these are public projects. They are, they're really tricky to get done by a private corporation because the benefits, the costs are borne by one person, but the benefits are shared by everyone. And so, if you imagine a world where everyone is only out for themselves, the best thing to do would be to wait for other people to build infrastructure and never build it yourself. And if that sounds like a cynical view, well, consider this. How much infrastructure have you built in your lifetime, viewer? You could build a bike lane on your street right now. Just paint the lines. You could, you know, you could build you could unpaint a bike lane on your street right now. Just cross out the bike. You could build a motorway through your town. Just place up the signs. Except you can't do those things. But you could probably do something more realistic, like you could dig a electricity line or an internet line to your property. You could, I guess that's personal infrastructure. You could build a train line, or you know, you can make these things. You know, but we rarely do. You might have seen a video of a guy building a little train line for his bins in his back garden, which I think is super cute, by the way. Also, just ahead of me is the bike mini roundabout. I've seen bike roundabouts, and I've seen regular mini roundabouts, but this is a mini one. It's cute. There was no one at it, so it just looked like I was turning right. But if you look back at those, all those lines, they all meant something. They all had a meaning, you know. Anyway, the reason I'm here to talk about infrastructure a little bit is because it's one of these tricky lines that you have to draw. I think the political compass, people usually use a two-axis political spectrum, right? Left, right, which, you know, people use the word liberal to define left and conservative to define right, even though liberal is a whole different thing. But my point is to say that a two-axis political spectrum, left, right, is how people usually define political parties. There are the insert political party here, or left of centre, and there's the right of centre party, who, you know, they do some evil things probably in your minds, in popular culture at least. And so, that man has a clipboard on his bike, and I am so interested in what's on it. But yeah, the political the political spectrum is usually drawn like that, except online, where people tend to use the 4-axis political compass, or the 2-axis, to make 4 sections. And the left-right is the kind of conservative, liberal, you know, kind of values that existed before, kind of the social, you know, issues, if you will. And then up-down is, you know, libertarian versus not libertarian. On the top is authoritarian governments, people who believe that, you know, governments in control should be the ones who do things. And on the bottom is the libertarian axis. This is, sometimes people call it the, you know, the anarchist axis, but it's usually called that. And so, this bottom spectrum is the interesting one, because I feel like almost everyone you speak to who is young has an extreme position on the up-down of that. And with the overwhelming majority of people saying that they're on the bottom axis, they're libertarian by default, which is, I feel like it's a promising hope, if nothing else, that like, most people believe that no matter what their goals are, whether they want a more liberal, whether they want a more tolerant, whether they want a more safe, or they want a more homogenous society, whatever their views are, whatever they care about one particular issue, they'd really like it to be sorted by itself. They would like it to happen without coercing people. You know, you might really dislike, you might, oh, so this is a regular bike roundabout now. It's a little bit of a dicey one. It'll be fine, I'm sure. And if it's not fine, it's okay, you're not watching this video. It's really interesting in my opinion. Okay, so do I have to cut across there? How am I gonna do this next section? Am I just going, I guess I'm going forwards. There's a bike lane going through the roundabout that I didn't know about till just now, but I guess I'm going along the river today. That'll be nice, I guess. Oh, there's the Houses of Parliament. What a great place to talk about my next point. If you can't see it, it's on the left there. A lot of people believe that no matter what system of government you like, it'd be best, you know, reached without coercion. And it's funny because people believe this right up until you get to the point where you explain, oh yeah, there's this thing you really want, but it won't happen unless you force people. And then they're like, yeah, we'll force them, but they'll want to go along with it anyway. And that's that to me is the part of the political compass, you know, test that is most telling. That to me is the political question that most people struggle with over their lifetimes, which is when you want someone to do something that they don't want to do themselves, how do you make them do it? Honestly, it's one of the biggest questions we ask ourselves as a society. You know, when you've got a child who's not eating his vegetables, but he needs vegetables, how do you make him eat the vegetables? You say, choo-choo, it's a train. Trains are cool. Vegetables aren't. They taste like vegetables. That's how bad vegetables are. But like, even though vegetables aren't cool, airplanes are heckin' awesome. Choo-choo! Wait, phew! That's what a plane noise is, probably. Yeah, the question of how do you make people do something they don't want to do is the one that people don't really ever get to. Everyone understands the basic part of like, okay, there are some, okay, I'm going forwards here. I feel like I should have stayed left in the bike lane, but hindsight is better than not hindsight, I guess. And then I'm going to go in the cycle lane, and I want to go to the right here. But God knows how you're meant to do that at such a busy roundabout. So, I guess, come along for the journey. Okay, I'm guessing I come... No? Okay, this cycle lane only wants me to go here. So I've got to... There's police there too, although it's terrorism police. I'm not sure if cycling across a roundabout the wrong way is considered terrorism yet. Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm doing. Guess I'm going to the Houses of Parliament. But the interesting question... Sorry. Okay, so this is green, which means this is now okay, I imagine. And then there's a cycle lane over here. Was there a better way to do that? There must have been, right? But now I'm gonna have to cut back across the road to the other side when I leave on the right. God, if I know how these things work. Anyway, yeah, that was a weird one. I'm not sure. If you saw that and that was obvious to you, let me know. If you saw that and had to think and then it was obvious, let me know. But anyway, the really interesting question that's a real puzzle to ask. Here's my legs, by the way. Do you like them? Oh God, powering through. The really interesting question is like, what happens when people don't want to do what you want to do? And that's, to me, if you can answer that question and say, well, I guess they don't have to do it, is when you're actually on the side, you know, you might think that you're against government intervention, but if you say that, then you're kind of not. And that, to me, is the interesting point of development most people have somewhere in their life. I think it's actually, you know, it's not a given that you have to say. It's not. it's not a. See what happens if you have a system of governance that says you have to stop at red because safety or something, and then people don't. Do you punish them? You know, because you know if you punish people for breaking a law which is intended for their safety or intended for the public good, then you're harming people, even for their own good. Let's say you're going to harm people for breaking a rule that would have harmed them. And it's like, well, you take a potential piece of harm, you know, the red light, and you turn it into guaranteed harm. Okay, this is a really interesting street. I've not been here before. And there's the police again. Again, hoping that cycling is not considered a terror offence yet. If it is, I have a whole problem on my hands. Oh, okay, I've nothing left maybe? I don't even know at this point. Yeah, left was not correct. Oh, C5. No, that's right. Okay. So, I think one of my things I'm always trying to come to terms with, right, is like working out how to help people understand themselves in all sorts of ways. I think so often you see people have arguments where they're missing what they're arguing about. I think even political beliefs. I think a lot of people who think they believe something, you know, the whole wave of Trump mania, which is probably happening as we go, as I'm recording this. A lot of people who think they are super fanatics actually just like that someone is standing up to a political class that has ignored them. A lot of people who think they're left-leaning actually just like the idea of, you know, rich people getting what's coming to them. I could have gone down that nice street instead of around it. Oh, terrible. But yeah, a lot of people who think, oh, there was a green light, just get to a red one. I think a lot of people who think that they are really on board with something really just like the people that it's punishing on some level. Yeah, the same with the type of person who's like, yeah, don't like when a cyclist runs a red light, even though it's a super serious safety violation in some cases. They're actually just saying, I don't like these people on two wheels. They make my life a little harder. And you can't say that bit, so you can say, oh yeah, they're criminals. And that's, to some extent, what, yeah, crime is invented to be, right? Like, giving classes of people in society, you know, who are doing things against the norm to, you know, we give them a word where we can say, yeah, they're unacceptable. Yeah, because to some extent, that's people say it's a tolerance paradox or something like that, but it is the whole point of, people would like to say, you can be tolerant to everyone, but no matter who you are, you're like, yeah, there's a place I draw the line. You might even say you're tolerant to criminals. What about a guy who's killed 30 people? Okay, maybe not him. What about a guy who's murdered and then defiled the bodies of 30 people? What about a guy who steals money from people by putting roofies in their drinks and then he sexually assaults the bodies afterwards? You tolerant of that guy? This is where you see the, you know, if you don't mind me just politically musing with no real destination for a little bit here. This is where I think the interesting conflict arises in the, you know, it's Pride Month or something like that, and so it's a whole movement supposedly of tolerance that people react to, and they say, well, this is more than just tolerance. If you want me to say, if you're trying to coerce me into something, and then they say it's all about, you know, child molesters or whatever it is, as a way to be like, yeah, well, that's the group I'm not tolerant of. It's a group no one's tolerant of. You know, like the only way to say that you're not tolerant of something is to make it an intolerable group. Which is a weird angle to take. But, okay. Probably came in a bit too fast there. since learning to drive, I've learned a lot more about, like, not just safety on the road, but kind of politeness. I feel like a lot of... when people who are in cars are very aware that you are a big threat to people around you. And so you not only just need to follow safety rules or laws or whatever else. Also, the screens should have gone across there, really. That's a case where me not going on a red has probably lost me a lot of time, huh? But, yeah, there's, I think since running a car, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of things that are not laws, but are polite, that you should probably want to do anyway, in my opinion. My crazy, humble take here. Oh, £6. High street hat. Sounds good. The interesting thing is trying to find the delicate... Man, I'm glad to be back in London, by the way. I've only just got back here 2 days ago. Really just appreciating it. What a great city. I'd be envious of the person who gets to visit this place. But I don't even have to. Don't even have to visit it. It's my place all year round. Besides the parts of the year where I'm not here, but ignore that. Anyway, there is a really interesting dilemma in the car thing, which is like, I don't want to just be polite. See, this is a weird example. Like, this is a road where legally you can park on one side, but by doing so, you're blocking a bike lane. That's impolite to the people on the bike lanes. So maybe you park on the pavement. Now that's impolite to the people on the pavement. Like, there's a lot of struggles for stuff like that where you don't want to, you know, hurt other people, but you got to find the right balance and what to do with it. You know, that's me running a red light. Am I really though? Sort of, but not really. So the interesting thing to me is that a lot of people don't necessarily understand themselves. I think this is something we should all be better trying to understand. I wonder, is this like a one-way street and this guy has cracked the code? As long as you face one direction, you're perfectly fine. I hope those are the rules. I'd be very pleased if he had cracked the code. But, yeah, oh, that's the shot ahead of me there. Heck yeah. Pretty bike ride. The thing about not understanding yourself is a problem, because if you don't understand yourself, you don't really get to understand the world around you. And so, that's why, even as someone who would rather you believe that we shouldn't force other people to do stuff, because I don't like when people think they should be able to tell me what to do with no authority. I don't like the idea of telling other people what to do with no authority. But I think everyone needs to answer the question of, like, well, how do you make sure that people do the right stuff? We as a society have agreed that laws are the way, and punishments. Working out what punishment should fit the crime is real hard. Honestly, that's the funny thing about modern society, right? And the modern, you know, what's the word? F the police movement? No, wait, ACAB, whatever it is. Like, it's an electric vehicle, by the way. You know, you might think you're better than the police, but do you drive an electric car? Are you saving the environment? I bet you're not even. That is actually fascinating to me. But, yeah, the truth is like a lot of people will dislike the police, but also at the same time really have strong opinions about laws they want enforced. And it's like, well, you can't say you dislike the idea of law enforcement and then also say you really want to enforce strong things on people, you know? Like, you know, there's a lot of overlap between people who say, yeah, I think that having big money is inherently immoral and should be stopped. And people are like, yeah, I don't think there should be people who enforce that though. They should just voluntarily give up their money. And it's like, well, what happens if you say that, I don't know, billionaires are banned, no more, you know, 99% tax rate or whatever the thing is? What happens if you say that, and then people say no? The answer is you have enforcement, right? In general, with tax penalties, the way those enforcement things work is, yeah, you just send a letter out and you say, please pay us the money, or future enforcement will come. And that's when most people agree with it, because they think the crime, you know, most people, when they find they've underpaid their income tax or have illegally used a loophole, are like, oh, yeah, my bad, let me fix that. They believe the idea of taxation to be fair. But in countries where they don't believe You know, in countries with high corruption levels, people think they're doing a good thing by avoiding giving the government money. So if you create a government that is not just, that doesn't do what people believe it should be doing, whether that's enforcement or whatever else, then honestly, if you create that situation, then you're gonna be in a world where you're just destabilizing your country and not even, and really increasing the power of billionaires, because one of the checks on their power is that they ultimately are under societal control. If you try to pull it and it doesn't work, then they're not anymore. That's the funny thing about society, right? Is a lot of everything runs on, but what if someone does the thing? And if you try to do the thing unsuccessfully, like the first time you speed and you realize, oh, I can go over the speed limit, it's just fine. You're like, okay, this is a power I've gained. And then a lot of people will just speed continuously whenever they feel like it, until they get a speeding fine or they get like some form of... That's fun. I wonder what the actual way to deal with that cross-section was. I've never actually seen someone stop too. I was like, we treat it like a stop sign in America. That was wholesome. Who was in the right there, chat? That's what you are now, internet. You just always chat. So I refer to the voices in my head that apparently have an internet presence and ability to speak back to me. But this is a pretty area too. The interesting struggle. Oh look, speaking of America, there is a really weird struggle in the world that just kind of exists between everything all the time, and everything exists on some little check of some balance. But like, I don't know, to give another example of people not understanding themselves, a lot of people who are on the right are like, yeah, not a fan of that whole government thing. Oh wait, actually, is there even a light for me here? I don't think there is. What if there's no light? You know what the rules are? Okay. There's no light, you can go right. That's the bad life advice I'll be following today. But oh, where am I heading? It's fine, it's for the video. You like this dark? Is the camera adjusted? Who knows? But yeah, there's a little bit of a struggle on the right side of people who are like, yeah, don't want this government telling me what to do. But also, here's the things I would like other people to do, and I would really like it if the government did that for me. Like basically social issues, right? The left is overwhelmingly defined by wanting the government to be involved in your financial affairs. The right's overwhelmingly involved with the government's overwhelmingly being involved in your private affairs. And there are some left people who believe that socially things should be controlled by greater powers, like whether you have the right to be and or display your love or allegiance for certain people. That should be a thing. This is a nice area too. Cool areas of London I'm riding through. But there are some people, obviously, who hold the counter views. But it's interesting how many people are like trapped in that dilemma of like, well, I don't want government, but I want someone to tell I want someone to be there at the border telling the people who don't look like me, they shouldn't come in. And it's like, well, how are we going to do that? Well, you need a border guard. Okay, well, how are you going to pay the people to do that? How are you going to invent a policy that makes people think that they can't come here and just stay illegally? Well, you need all forms of government bureaucracy at all levels that make it tricky. You need all sorts of regulations on businesses to tell them what they can and cannot do with regards to hiring people who should not be here. There's all these things you have to do that are counter to your popular position. I think society as a whole is almost always defined by this big like conflict that's always happening. And I think when you let one side of the conflict win, I think, funnily enough, things get worse. Unlike every conflict that's existed in the real world, please don't kill me. Unlike every conflict that's existed in the real world, where it's, in general, every country works better when they solve their civil wars and their wars of other countries. Unlike those wars, which provided competing, societies almost, it's best if everyone's got this weird view of like, I don't know what should be done. And I think the only reason why, if I was to be cynical and self-serving, would say like, well, honestly, when people are really obsessed with like, this could be solved by someone else just doing it. If there's an all-powerful entity that you just have to beg to and see if it gets done, either the thing you want gets done, or it doesn't, and you have to beg some more. You have to like hope it happens. This is where a lot of people in online politics get stuck. They're like, well, you know, I would love to do this thing in my life, but the darn people in charge aren't making it happen. Or, you know, whichever authority figure, you know, the bosses of the world, the billionaires of the world are uniting to make sure that I can't have a fulfilling life, because the one career I decided I wanted is not very popular and no one's hiring for it. The people of the world, I know, like, what's the other side of this? Like the leftist factions that control it all are deciding that I can't live my true life, can't get the pills that I want to, you know, like, everyone's always in this, like, perpetual cycle, I find. Oh wait, perpetual cycle? That's what I've been on tonight. You know, an overtake. I must sound so crazy to the people that overhear just a tiny fraction of these, right? Okay, we're on the left now. This is a cycle superhighway, by the way, so we can actually pick up some speed safely. One of my favorite things. So you can finally start going fast. It's weird, because we invented regular highways a long time ago, and the logic's pretty sound behind them, right? Like, it's going fast and having to stop before picking up speed is hard. But if you just stick at a consistently fast speed. Is that a red cycle light? Oh, right, it's at this. This one could be dangerous because cars could be coming from the left. And so I will, and that might happen to me if I go forwards. Whereas if I just go, you know, I'm not going to talk about red lights anymore. I think they're the most basic social contract. And yet even they feel like, man, that person looks like they're struggling. Sounds like, I guess. Even the most basic social contract can be voided. Can just run into the issue of like, well, some people don't want to follow it. And if you can't stop people in deadly vehicles, what can you do? And the answer is I haven't worked out the answer, but I think it's an interesting question. So yeah, I'm following, I've gone off the highway now. I'm on the side roads. Maybe they should demolish these buildings. Build a little cycle lane through them, huh? Oh, it's left. Oh, I'm sorry. I probably confused you. Oh, that's what you are if you don't understand your own political positions, friends. There's a nice pub right next to the fire station. How fun. By the way, my taxi driver was in this area recently, and he called the people here real salt of the earth, and he was like down to earth. And I was like, isn't salt of the earth a bad thing? If you salt the earth, doesn't that stop things from going there? Yeah, I think I came off the highway, and I've ended up on some side routes that I don't know if I actually want to be on. To be totally honest with you, I think I might get back on the highway. Anyway, so infrastructure is the one place. So even if, you know, if you go like no true Scotsman on this and say, people who believe in, you know, government freedom besides from their money, you know, besides from their government freedom, besides for other people's social control, it's kind of hypocritical. People believe in no government control in their social life, but all over their economic life, a little hypocritical. But the funny thing where it blows the line is like, well, one of the things we really cannot make decisions for ourselves is stuff like this infrastructure. Like, someone had to build this cycle highway and then deal with the fact that no one was riding a bike here because, like, no one has a bike ready. Okay, very few people enter onto the highway. See where it takes me. I think it takes me quite far out east. Going on a long bike ride today, hit 50% battery, so I can go out a lot further. Maybe catch a bus home. Yeah, man, crazy guys, huh? At least they're having fun. You know, you can say lots of things about these people, but you can't say they're not enjoying themselves. Yeah, there exists a line somewhere in there where you have to have some control about where stuff happens between stuff. I think there's a whole crisis about this when it comes to like building, say, public transport. It is a public service for everyone, and in a lot of places that's like when public transport is a worst option, which is how most of the world does it, sadly. When public transport sucks, it's no big deal when you build it somewhere. It's just serving underserved communities. When you build world-class public transport, like we have here in London. So this is Bermondsey Station, I believe, up here. If you ever go inside of it, it's a giant station. No one's ever using it though. And so they build the station under the assumption that everything around it will get nicer because more people will move here. You know, people will move here with the intent of going to the station and later using it for other stuff. I'm going to stop at this red light because there's a person and I want them to feel safe. But then after that, see, even though the light's still red, what an insane human being I am. Yeah, when it comes to like building a cycle highway even, you have to kind of build the thing and then let people come, right? And if you build something good enough, people will definitely come. But then the problem is by building this using public money, i.e. all of our money, that's what taxpayer money is. There's no, government money is just money that comes from people. You might think like, oh, either I pay or the government pays, and it's like, well, you're paying either way, just in different quantities, right? Okay, so gonna come off the highway because the bus lane is more of a highway than the real highway around here, I believe. But yeah, there's a really interesting problem, which is like, well, you build this really nice thing around and then lots of people want to move there, and then people who are renting kind of get kicked out through no harm of their own. And so you have this negative side effect that just happens and no one's thinking about. But in a way, you're effectively saying, pay us more money for this infrastructure we're building, or you have to leave. And I think our worry about pretending that we don't want government to enforce anything besides the things that we care about leads to all sorts of situations where stuff just kind of happens in the background by itself. And again, this is real great when it aligns with what you want, but sometimes at least the things that probably aren't so great. Anyway, I'm gonna go through this tunnel now. Gonna have a real fun time doing it, I bet. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Man, if you haven't seen my video on the rough pipe tunnel, you probably should. It's an interesting time. I sometimes go across the roundabout onto it, but oh, they've got a lot of these restrictions on here now. But yeah, if you haven't seen my video on the rough pipe tunnel, one of the more interesting places, but I cough a lot when I'm going through there. It's not good for my lungs. It entirely cancels out the positive benefit of cycling. But sometimes that's all you want in life. You just want a negative benefit. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed, because you know I'm about to. You know, they could fix the air in that tunnel. Sure would make it better for me. But then everyone will be paying for my lungs. Maybe they should pay for my lungs though. I mean, they're already paying for my lungs if I get lung cancer in the hospital. Why not just save my lungs and make the tunnel better? If you haven't seen it, that's how tight the traffic goes. I felt like if this was the US or Canada, that would just be one lane, and it'd be a pretty small lane too. But anyway, thank you for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. See you next time. Goodbye.